Good evening, my friends. Several times, at the beginning of what were still only paintings that were animated by music, visitors who came back after 3 weeks or months asked me what I had changed in the luminous compositions, because they had the sensation of penetrating more into the painting. I hadn't changed anything pictorially, but I had improved the quality of my hi-fi system at the time. It was these reactions that prompted me to tackle sound reproduction in the hope of getting one that sounds real, like what I heard when I went to record jazz musicians. I have been immersed in jazz since I was a child. My father, in addition to this professional activity, was a drummer in bands playing all kinds of dance music, including jazz in bars or dance halls. I undertook to modify the acoustic of the room, first with cork, known to act on resonance, but the sound was muffled. I tried various materials that all gave more or less interesting, but not satisfactory results. I was given different acoustic forms used by professionals, but if they gave good results to the measurements, my ears prefer to throw them in the trash. I have tried various unusual material in acoustics, such as linoleum, carpet, or needle punched. It was very heavy to carry piece by piece from the dealer. I hurt my back a lot when I carried them on the subway, but also when I stuck them on the wall or on the ceiling. You had to remove the previous item that had not been satisfactory first, and it was usually very difficult. I had taken some courses in acoustic during my architectural studies at the Beaux, but they were of little use when it came to choosing materials. However, I used a principle known since antiquity by placing 4 columns on the back wall. Their function is to reflect sound in all directions to avoid standing waves. But this was not enough. With the need to record the sound as faithfully as possible, I realized that it was not so much the frequencies that needed to be processed, which is what all professionals do, but to reproduce the harmonics as faithfully as possible to give the sensation of the real thing. And it is this treatment of the harmonic that causes the intense sensations that I feel in an Extasium session, in addition to contemplating the painting. This is where my studies on sulfur treatment have been most useful to me. Royce recording studios use very bulky material to process the sound. I finally ended up with a kind of thin skin, but covered with a varnish of which I have the secret, and where matte and gloss alternate to favor even or odd harmonics. I cannot develop here all the detail of this research and the final discovery, but they can be found in my book or in my website extasium.fr. In the meantime, I will continue the story of my first love. During the 1960 holidays, I found Michel again with a strange feeling. I had the impression that I was deceiving the person I had been writing to all year by forging an abstract image far from reality. But very quickly, it was happiness, especially since her parents had given her a blue moped. She would come and pick me up at the back of the camp from where I would discreetly slip away, and we would go into the isolated woods to sit on a blanket, to kiss and caress each other for hours. We didn't go further because we didn't know what to do, but also because a serious girl couldn't make love before marriage, and getting pregnant would have been a disaster. One day, I was walking with her and her 2 best friends, much as pretty, on the beach promenade, and I saw a bag on the pavement. I picked it up And looking inside, we were shocked. There was a lot of money. 13,000 francs, equivalent to the same amount, but in euros now. And on top of that, a lot of valuable jewelry. We had never seen such an amount, and the first reaction was to divide the lot in four. But after thinking about it, we quickly realized that we couldn't hide it from our parents who would think we had stolen it. Especially since at that time and in our working class circles, we received very little pocket money. We decided to take the bag and its contents to the granary who returned it to wealthy vacationers who had forgotten it on the hood of their car. The story could have ended there, but in the summer there wasn't much going on in La Ciotat, and we were in the middle of the stories of violent black jackets. A local journalist found that young people doing a good deed would make a good story, and the next morning we were on the front page of the newspaper Le Parisien. As a discreet getaway, we did better. The camp director called me into his office, but instead of the admonitions I was expecting, he gave me a very complimentary letter from the Snecma Works Council congratulating me on this good deed, which was becoming a symbol of goodness. But most importantly, my mother in Courbevoie was woken up by a neighbor who showed her his paper where her son became a kind of hero. She was very happy about it, her last one, because she died a few days later from illness at 37 years old. I went to Courbevoie to attend the funeral mass, and there in this church of St. Peter St. Paul, in the midst of my tears, I felt all of a sudden a deep rejection of the church and its priests who appeared to me like sinister puppets. The divine events that happened to me much later confirmed me in this opinion. I had made my first communion to please my Breton grandmother, who was a bigot, and at that time I believed in what we were being told. But afterwards, my sister, who was younger, also prepared for her communion. We shared the same room and shared our impressions of what we were being taught and what we found to be very different in everyday life. It was this contradiction that led me to this rejection. I went back down to La Ciotat and found Michelle, who comforted me as best as she could. Her parents considered us engaged. We were getting married very young in the South at this time. If a girl wasn't married by the time she was 20, she was considered an old maid. My father was not opposed to marriage, but he told me that since he himself had married at the age of 20, he did not advise me to do so. We agreed that he absolutely did not want the marriage, and we officially broke it off. However, I had agreed with Michelle that we would meet again after a month without telling anyone. She went out to Paris to work at the post office, and we resumed our habits of caresses and endless kisses. But in the meantime, I had met other girls, and I no longer had any passionate feelings for her. We split up for good. A year later, I met her by chance or fate on the platform of the Franklin Roosevelt subway station. She had discolored her hair in very ugly, pixie blonde. She was already married, pregnant, and had grown a lot, and was no longer attractive at all. I had narrowly escaped